Welcome back. With me today is registered dietitian Gwen Moore to help us to better understand how to eat healthier and prevent diseases. Okay, well, we have 7 principles we will go through in the next few weeks. Today, we have time to cover 4 of those principles. So today, we will look at food groups, portion sizes, how to read food labels, and we will share with you some tips that can help you to change the way you look at food so you can eat healthier and hopefully prevent diseases. Let's begin with food groups. People are really confused. We have 3 major food groups. We have carbohydrates, we have proteins, and we have fats. And with carbohydrates, we know that it comes in 3 forms. We have simple carbohydrates, mostly sweets, refined, found in pastries, and then complex carbohydrates. That is what we really need. So let's talk a little bit more about what we need, which is the complex carbohydrates.
Okay, complex carbohydrates will be pretty much foods that have fiber in them.
Right.
Okay, so we're talking about like maybe yams or certain types of vegetables and things of that nature. And as we know, carbohydrates would break down into sugar,
right,
or technical name is glucose, which is the brain's chief source of energy. And the brain directs the rest of the body.
Right. And we want more of the complex, like the oatmeal, the cereal, the whole grain products, and we get fiber through that as well.
Exactly.
And let's talk about fibers. Very important for the bowel. It helps. Welcome to the show. Today, we are talking about spiritual practices and disease prevention. More and more research is showing us that spiritual practices, and by spiritual practices, I mean things such as meaningful relationships, having a belief system, ability to forgive. These things can prevent chronic diseases. Stay tuned. Welcome back. With me today, I have Dr. Reed. Thanks for joining me again. And John Rowe. I thank both of you for being here. On the previous show, we talked about stress hormones and the chemical changes in the brain. We know, though, that through research, spiritual practices can help to relieve stress. So let's recap so we can bring the audience up to speed about some of the main stress hormones.
When we talk about stress, we're looking at brain functions. So here's our brain, and this is my cartoon version of brain, that affects our body. And 3 stress hormones that we talked about, Ruth, are number 1, we talked about serotonin, and number 2, we talked about dopamine, and number 3, we talked about norepinephrine. Or adrenaline. So these are the things that this is just a review of what we talked about. Serotonin has to do with sense of feeling good, feeling calm, feeling secure. Dopamine has to do with having pleasurable experiences and meaningful experiences and having the motivation to do things. And adrenaline and norepinephrine has to do with alertness and concentration. But usually when you're undergoing intense stress, this level goes up so much to a point that it's not just the constant level of concentration, it exceeds that. And so what happens is that you actually have a overproduction of hormone that is normally good when it's produced in appropriate amounts, but it's produced way too much. And so there's a vasoconstriction, blood vessels tighten up, so your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate goes up, so your heart has to work so much harder, and your heart lacks oxygen, and that's the heart attack feeling that you get when you have the chest tightness. And when you have high amount of this hormone, the other 2 hormones drop. So you have lack of feeling of security and lack of sense of pleasure, or you don't have any reason or motivation to enjoy life anymore. And that's the feeling of depression when you undergo prolonged stress.
Coming up.
It's the imbalance of the brain chemistry leading to too much of the stress hormone. Initially, it's good for alertness and concentration, but if you have too much of it, then it can cause a lot of bad things in your body.
Then later,
having a meaningful relationship with other human beings, or whether it's having a good relationship with your higher power, all of those things will actually increase serotonin, increase dopamine, reduce the stress hormone like adrenaline, as well as cortisol.
Right. Join us